We're here with Eric Parker, who emerged from the Tier 3 Bundy Ranch trial with a hung jury across the board for all counts that were charged against him. By way of brief summary, no one received a conviction on either of the conspiracy counts. Two defendants were found guilty of various charges: Greg Burleson receiving convictions on all other counts, and Todd Engel receiving convictions on 2 counts. The other 4 defendants, Eric included, were neither convicted nor acquitted of any of the charged offenses. Eric is here to shed light on how this all transpired, where things are at now, and what might be ahead. So without further delay, Eric, it's been a while since the last interview. What can you tell us?
I can say round 1 is over. So I figured I would do a little update to share my thoughts here. First thing, wow, what an experience. They tried everything they could to rig the game. Every dirty trick they knew. They did not make it easy to get the truth out. With all their efforts, the jury said they failed to prove their case against Steve, Scott, Ricky, and me. People have a lot of opinions as to why that is, but really it boils down to one thing. We never intended to commit any crimes. There was no conspiracy, and everything that occurred was reactionary. We never intended to obstruct, impede, threaten, or assault anyone, and we certainly did not extort anyone. Todd Engel and Greg Burleson. First, Greg. Greg said things about his intentions that if he had followed through with would have gotten a lot of people killed. Things that no decent human being would ever consider. Now, whether he meant it or if he was just stupid and trying to make himself look like something he wasn't, most of these crimes had more to do with intent, and he told everybody what his intent was, and it wasn't good. Todd's situation is similar, not nearly to the extent of Greg, and in no way did he intend to hurt anyone, but that's why he wasn't found guilty of threatening.
This call is from an inmate facility.
Assault or extortion. It seems the jury felt from his statements he intended to travel to Nevada to aid in an extortion and obstruct the BLM. Personally, I feel Todd is a good man, and I disagree with the jury. I pray the Lord stays close to him and his sentencing is lenient. That's all I can really say about that. The alleged conspiracy. There's rumors about the judge crossing out the jurors' not guilty marks on the first count. Conspiracy to commit an offense against the United States of America. That's not true. The jurors did it, and they told us they did it. They were confused by the jury instructions. Count 1, to have a verdict of not guilty, had to be unanimous. To have a verdict of guilty had to be unanimous, or it was supposed to be dropped. We are having our lawyers look into it. Let's focus on what we know. The government tried to imply by sharing posts and emails, then showing up, we were guilty of a conspiracy. The jury did not buy it. That's good. I wish it would have been unanimously a no, but 10 out of 12 gives me hope that people have not lost their minds. What else do we know? When asked by our lawyers, the majority of the jurors said the government did not meet their burden of proof. Even though they brought 30-plus witnesses, BLM, NPS, and FBI video, photos, undercover investigations, the majority of the jurors did not believe any crime was committed. That's because there wasn't. They said the government didn't believe their own witnesses, referring to the 3 witnesses they brought that weren't BLM, NPS, or FBI. The 3 witnesses said the same things I've said in numerous interviews over the last 3 years. The prosecution asked the jurors what they could do differently to convince them. They asked if more evidence would help. The jurors told them if the evidence was more of the same, it would not help. The jurors told them it was already too much, without any real proof of a crime. What did we learn? Well, what you say on Facebook and in videos can and will be used against you in a court of law. Vegas Review-Journal that he wasn't sure they were going to try these 6 again. What does that mean? It's hard to say. He could drop charges on Ricky and Steve, who were 10-2 not guilty, then put Scott and me in with the Bundys in the next group. If they are following the jurors' recommendations, they won't do that, because it would continue to make things very complicated. They said our case's jury instructions had all the witnesses, and all the witnesses made things too complicated in our trial. There was 6 defendants and 10 charges. That made 60 decisions. In the next tier, they have like 16 counts with 5 defendants. That's 80 plus. Scott and I at 20. That's 100 decisions. Not to mention Scott and I ended up with 7-5 and 8-4 not guilty, depending on the charge. And we're confident we can do it again. Will that lower the odds of convictions in the next tier? Odds that I think are already pretty low? Maybe, it's hard to say. In conclusion, I feel last week was a victory. We aren't free yet, but God has a plan, and it has a timetable. I believe that anything achieved too fast or too easy is insignificant. I believe it won't mean much, and the Lord intends this stand we've made to be significant and to mean something. We truly believe the Lord was with us in the Bunkerville on April 12, 2014, and we believe He was with us in the courtroom. He will continue to be with us so long as we give Him the glory of the victory. I've been reading a lot of books. One of the books I read was Army of the Dawn by Rick Joyner. It has helped me understand and keep this chapter in my life in perspective. One line was about these battles and what will be needed to sustain them. I quote, "Like every army, there will be 2 basic parts, those who engage the enemy and those devoted to support and supply of those on the front line." When I read that, I thought about all the people who make this stand bearable. Me and the others would have broke a long time ago without support and supply. Letters build us up, magazines, newspapers, and books help us pass the time. Financial help for phone time, postage, commissary, and helping our families truly make this time bearable. We are so grateful for the support network that is formed. When I get a letter that says, "We sent your son a birthday card," or "We love your wife's updates on the trial," or "We donated to help her stay in Las Vegas for the rest of the trial," or "My wife and I decided to fly in from our home in Brazil to be in the courtroom for a day or 2, I quickly realize I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, and it brings me great comfort. I'm not sure what the future will bring. They may dismiss the charges and send us home, or they may try us again. But with faith in the Lord and a good supply and support network, I know I can stay on the front line as long as I need to. After last week, I now realize it doesn't matter if they take me to trial 3 more times. I may not get 100% of 12, but I know I can get 7 or 8 of them. Steve Myrie in his closing statement quoted John Adams. So in case he hears this, I wanted to end with my favorite John Adams quote. "Let us not forget, self-defense is the central canon in natural rights." I'd imagine we'd be looking at an acquittal if Mr. Myrie and the judge didn't work so diligently at blocking our jury instruction on self-defense and defense of others. But in the end, the majority of the jurors knew in their heart and didn't need an instruction.
I was glad to hear you mention what you did about Facebook and about online communication, the things that you send by email or through message or put out on social media. How much evidence did the government present in this case to try to convict you guys of conspiracy? How much of that do you feel came from Facebook or email? And would you say that it's fair to assume that if the government is going to bring your social media posts into an indictment, into a case, that they're going to apply the worst, most unreasonable interpretation to what you said for the purposes of prosecution.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You know, they need to have Miranda rights when you sign into Facebook, you know. They definitely brought, I would say the majority of the evidence was misinterpretations of things said in either on Facebook or in a video, which, you know, usually was shared on Facebook, or in emails, which some people took and then shared on Facebook. And really, you know, that's why I had to get on the stand, was because they take your little snippet of something you said or in a conversation, they take it out of context, then they place it in front of the jury. They continued to do that. And that was one of the big reasons that I felt I needed to get on the stand, was to take those things and put it back in perspective. They really kind of circumvented the Fifth Amendment by doing that. They forced me to get on there and defend myself if I wanted the jurors to understand what I meant when I said some things.
I think it's important for people to also know that when you started your update here, talked about the fact that the government used everything that they had to try to keep you guys from being able to tell the truth. And I would just submit that there is not a shred of embellishment to that statement whatsoever. You see updates and you see supporters outside of the courthouse, and Las Vegas is a long trip for a lot of people, but anybody who is anywhere close, whether these defendants end up in the next tier trial, regardless of what happens, people should go and see for themselves exactly what happens in that courtroom. Because it absolutely, the full power and might of the federal government came into that courtroom with the intent to put you guys away for life. And the keystone of the whole thing was conspiracy, and they couldn't get anyone to agree for anybody on conspiracy. So I think when the next trial comes, people should make a concerted effort, even if it's only for one day, to go down and sit through one of these trials and understand exactly how the government approaches this, because as Eric just said, it's nonsensical with regard to social media, emails, things that are said online, things that other people say and post to your timeline, things that you might click the thumbs up, that came in the court case. Everything that you do online can be scrutinized and twisted by the government to make you appear guilty for something that you're not. So I just wanted to touch on that I didn't think it was embellished. And Eric, you spoke to the level of support that you guys have experienced. And what I was hoping that you would do is that you would help explain to people exactly how commissary might be your last connection to normality. I think people have this perception that commissary is just where you buy a can of soda, or maybe you want some gummy snacks or something. But I think commissary is more than that. And I was hoping that you could just touch on that real quick, help people understand what commissary means to an inmate, and what kind of things that you're able to get beyond minor conveniences.
Oh, well, I mean, it's everything, you know. If I need a pad of paper to write some letters on, it's coming from commissary. If I don't want to use, we'll say this really hard, not too good, federally issued small bar of soap, I have to be able to buy real soap and shampoo on commissary. If I need, I mean, it's really just, if it's anything. They issue the bare minimum, and it's not good. Most people probably aren't familiar, but they call it Bob Barker in here. That's the company that makes everything, and it's bare bone minimum, and it's not very good. So I mean, if I want a razor to shave, or Colgate instead of what goes for toothpaste in here. You know, so it's really just every avenue of anything I need, whether it's phone time to call my family, to do this stuff we're doing right here, postage to send out, letters, everything.
Yeah, I appreciate you outlining that, because, like I said, I think there's a perception that commissary is simply a connection for you to be able to order some snacks on occasion. And the reality is that what you're able to get through commissary is the stuff that the rest of us take for granted on a daily basis. Good toothpaste, a razor, a piece of paper to write a letter, a stamp to send some mail home. So I'm glad you outlined that for us, because one of the things that we're trying to do is to push to make sure that commissary isn't an issue for you guys. So that clarification is helpful. Is there anything else that you'd like to say about the trial or about where you're at or what's next?
Well, just in general, we started this thing with good intentions. We saw people being hurt, and we saw what we felt were violations of the Constitution, and obviously other people felt were violations of the Constitution. Even the governor of Nevada felt like there was violations of the Constitution in this context. And we went down there to stand peacefully, and we will continue to do that, and we will continue to fight until the end. Whether that's they can keep retrying us, and they can keep us here, and with your guys' help, keeping our families' heads above water, we'll stay in this fight until the end.
Eric, thank you for everything. Send the other guys our thanks. Thank you for your stand. We're proud of you. We're here to support, and we'll be with you for whatever's next.
Thanks, Anthony. I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye.